Hi, it's me, Dave Marsh, the Spy Guy. And is there such thing as a perfect movie? Well, I think this one can pretty much count. So, those of you know, I hate to break it to you, but Sean Connery died yesterday. And he's in 100 different movies. He was up to things, and one of those guys who actually managed to retire from movies. I have a friend of mine who's a site manager, and he says no one retires from this business. But Sean Connery made a decent attempt at it. It was actually during the pandemic. Another James Bond, Pierce Brosnan. He did a live feed of GoldenEye, and you can watch it where he does commentary and talks about the movie. And he talks about how he met Sean Connery the first time he met Sean Connery after he made while he was making GoldenEye, and he's like, I was just walking down the studio lot of MGM, and then I hear this voice behind me saying, "Are they paying you enough?" And he turns around at Sean Connery, and it turns out Sean Connery was going to MGM for his to get his hair cut for free because he was like that. He's like, hey, well, they still give me free haircut, so here I am. And they talked and stuff, but that was kind of neat. So you can go find that on YouTube if you want to watch more of that. It's pretty good. Yeah, so I switched it up. This is actually the picture from my living room behind me. So I got a few movie posters I picked up and what's behind me, of course, is Action Jackson. You can kind of see it is a little blurry. I got Red Heat over there and Star Wars and Conan the Destroyer, not the Barbarian, because I couldn't find that poster. So anyways, and I even have another someone wanted the Ghostbusters thing, and I know it's not a frame, but you try and fit that thing in there properly. Okay, so I was going to talk about Hunt for Red October. So a little interesting story about that is the person I got and learned a little bit of writing for in the first place. I hate having to look at myself, so I'm going to just switch to a different. I'm going to look at my Steam account and anyways, so the personal connection is my personal writer mentor is a guy named Jerry Purnell. I never met him. I know his son. We've met it, and he's like a convention friend. He and I go to this, but and I did go to this convention, unfortunately. And of course, as everyone knows, when you're watching this 10 years from now, you'll know we were all in the grips of insanity, and you'll be like, how could you have done that to yourselves when we're dealing with this much more important whatever crisis we're doing at the time? So met his son Phil Purnell, and he's a convention buddy, and we go to this convention when we play games together and talk about different things. But one day, my mentor, Jerry, is walking home. It's the early '80s. He goes to check his mail. He opens it up, and there's this brown satchel in there, like paper, like a book wrapped up in paper. Sorry, not a satchel, but whatever. And he tears it open, and it's a copy of The Hunt for Red October. And he flips open the page because this is the first time this book is out, so no one knows who Tim Clancy is. And it's a note from him saying, I always wanted to talk to you about writing books, but I figured I should get my own first book done beforehand. And of course, it became a big... The Hunt for Red October is now this mega $1 million thing. Like, there are so many different types of things, but they apparently became friends for a while, and then up until Clancy's first divorce, and then they kind of drifted away. But I always find that kind of an interesting story. My 6 degrees of separation to Tom Clancy is also my 6 degrees of separation to Newt Gingrich. So that's kind of, who was also, I should say, love him or hate him, he's also a nerd. He's written books about alternate histories of World War II. So with William Forstchen. So he's in the community. So Hunt for Red October. What can we say about this movie? I watched it last night because, as far as I'm concerned, now it's because Sean Connery died on Halloween. It's now officially a Halloween movie, and everyone can now sit down and say, yes, we have a real Halloween movie, like Die Hard for Christmas. So This movie is one of the best movies I can really say, like, that just holds up. Uh, it is also one of the best book adaptations because I've read the book as well, and it ties in so well. But there's a few weird things that are happening in the course of the movie. But let's just look at this. The cast here. I pulled up IMDb. Like, oh yeah, I guess it also counts as a Halloween movie because Tim Curry's in it, right? Tim Curry gets to play an actual serious character who's not a joker or weirdo or anything. He's getting to play this person. The Russian doctor, Dr. Petrov. Who else do we have in this movie? This movie's got like an amazing cast of all the people who will be actors 80s, 90s, even today. Like, did you know Peter Firth is in this movie? He's the intelligence, the political officer Sean Connery kills early on. Spoiler alert. You know what? I will just give my rating right now before just going into the general discussion on this movie. So this movie, I'll give it a 95 out of 100. It's not the perfect movie, but it's up there like it, Conan the Barbarian, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. These are these great movies that are timeless kind of things. I guess, like, I'm hard pressed to think of what the perfect movie is. What would I give 100% to? Like Lawrence of Arabia, I'm still watching, but I'd probably rate it lower than this because of some of the stuff. It's like, but anyways, look at the people who are in this movie. You got Sean Connery, of course, Alec Baldwin, Scott Glenn, Sam Neill, James Earl Jones, Richard Jordan, who most people probably don't know, but he was in a great show called The Equalizer, along with. So he connects in. So I'm sure all of you guys know of Equalizer via the Denzel Washington movies, but Edward Woodward, who is another great actor, more from TV than from film, plays in this show called Equalizer, set in a dystopic 1980s New York City, with all sorts of where he's an ex-spy who tries to help people, and the city is just insanely crazy and destructive, like under de Blasio today. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a little political. Ooh, whatever. Yeah, so we got Richard Jordan here. We have young Peter Firth playing a political officer. You got Tim Curry. You got Courtney B. Vance as Seaman Jones. You got Fred Thompson, of course, the future senator, and more importantly, DA on Law and Order. You have you got the wife for all of 5 seconds being played by the actress who played Beverly Crusher in The Next Generation. So this movie is really just got a great cast of future and current and future actors that will be going on to great things. And I really do recommend, like, I just want to, just going through the IMDb page. I was just like watching it again last night. I'm like, holy crap, Courtney Vance is here. Just all the different actors and all the stuff that's happening in this movie. And the fact that little things are set up and they pay off later in the movie. And I always love a good payoff. I do appreciate when plot lines are resolved and they do the callbacks to the earlier scenes. That's great ways of handling writing. And the fact is, if you read get into the Tom Clancy novels, you see all these characters and you know where they're going. Like the fact that like there's the pilot of an airplane who nearly gets shot down over the Atlantic, and they just mention him. That's the guy who will one day be vice president when Jack Ryan becomes president of the United States. Spoiler alert. These books have been out for 20 years. If you don't know what's going on, it's not my fault. Anyways, I want to also thank the Planet of the Nerds for subscribing. It's great to have all my friends here watching me just try. So that's what's happening here. should have got a drink. You know, I might wander away and get a drink. So November, it's set in 84. So they do a couple weird things. They're like, they have this kind of preamble, and they're like, you know, both governments will declare that this didn't happen. And of course it didn't happen, and it only happened in Tom Clancy's mind. Okay. It's not the same thing. This Soviet submarine captain, Marco Ramius, given the command of Red October, a new Typhoon class nuclear submarine with a stealth caterpillar drive, which is a real thing that the Germans trying to make in World War II. I don't know if it actually works now. Certainly the Soviets ended up finally making a submarine that definitely was not detectable by the Americans, and similar to the American Ohio class. I guess it's a little unclear, but the Russians had these in the 90s, and it was kind of like, ooh, now we can do all this fun stuff. And then, of course, the fun stuff is over because the Cold War is over, and you don't have to worry about things. So he's supposed to be taking off this submarine off to the Konovalov, commanded by his former student, Captain Tupolev, and things happen. I mean, and there is, like, we get to see Jack Ryan earlier in the movie talking about his Ramius, and he talks about how he's like this the school teacher who's taught all the other Soviet captains. And then when he's trying to defect, and he sends his note off to tell them that he's defecting, and his like, it's time to go kill an old friend. And there's just like layers in the script. This is the 90s was an 80s. The 90s, I was talking about this with Andy Signor. What is it with the 1990s and the late 80s where we got these great movies, where we have great written movies where it all ties together? And I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why I hate a lot of stuff now, is that they don't do it. They're lazy. Star Trek Discovery is Picard is some of the laziest freaking writing I've ever seen. I don't care that you have the Pulitzer Prize. You're a terrible writer. I digress. Yeah, so you got these situations. You got the scene. Maybe I'll just go kind of through the characters and talk about them a little bit. So Sean Connery is, of course, there, chewing up the scenery. I'm like, the cast in this movie, I'm not going to edit. I wanted to see the full list. Just give me the list. See the full cast, because this cast is crazy. Okay. Like Fred Thompson. Like the second in command of the submarine is not even on this kind of list here. And of course it is, Sam Neill. And that's something you got to realize. So Sam Neill gives his character in this gets this great speech where he's talking about, like, when he gets to what he's going to do. Well, when I get to America, you think they'll like let me settle in Montana? And he's like, I'm sure they'll let you settle wherever you want. I will get it. Do you think they need to have papers to cross state lines? I'm like, I don't believe that's how it works there. And he's like, I'm going to get 2 big American wives, and I will have one in Montana, and I will have one in this other state, and I will get a big pickup truck, and I will drive between my 2 wives. I'm like, what? Great monologues like this do we get? It's true, though. We do still have movies kind of like this. They're kind of underground budgets. You get to watch them on Netflix or Prime, and they're like little hour and a half made for the genre movies, and they bring back people like Nicolas Cage or Die Hard, Bruce Willis there, and they make these hour and a half little kind of disposable movies. But you know what? Those sometimes they have really great writing. Those guys are obviously, the directors and the writers are obviously love movies, the same movies I do from the 1990s, movies like Face Off and what was that one with the nuclear bombs? Anyways, don't shoot at our nuclear weapon, the nuclear bombs. And, you know, there are these great movies that were made at that time. And then, I'm rambling, but I don't care. But so Sam Neill has that speech. There's the little things where like there's just a kind of line. So how do we know that the Red October is a dangerous thing? Because someone in early on says, you know what? Back in the 60s, my dad made me build a bomb shelter in our backyard because some guy put off one of these, put a bunch of nuclear bombs 70 miles off the coast of Cuba. And now this thing could do the same thing and we never know about it. So, and is this a first strike weapon? And like Richard Jordan has one of my favorite scenes where he's like, I'm a politician. That means that when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops. Just like great writing. I give this movie 100% on writing. It's just like that. I guess they call them dad movies, so I guess this is a dad movie because we only get to see one girl, though she's pretty hot, and that is a young Dr. Crusher. I guess we do get to see the baby, but Alec Baldwin's daughter, but that definitely doesn't count. And if it does count for you, you need to go jump off a bridge. The movie's really good, and like you just get callbacks and you get like interesting action scenes. The fact that the summer you get to Alec Baldwin goes to the Navy yards and he's watching there, and I had forgotten this scene existed, where he's like watching the rescue sub get built and deployed. And then later on in the movie, when they have to dock with Red October, they have the rescue sub attached to the Dallas. So everything they're making these tiny efforts to pay off, and they pay off, and you just get the callbacks, and you get the things with like the ambassador in the office with the national security advisor asking for help, and the movie ends. You're telling us you're missing 2 submarines, and of course everyone knows it's all bullshit. But I really think you guys just need to take your chance. This is as far as I'm concerned, this is a movie you need to watch every Halloween. It is now a classic Halloween movie. It is The Hunt for Red October. Like I said, I gave this movie a 95 out of 100. And Sean Connery everyone in this is doing their best to chew the scenery, and there are so many future major megastars that come out of this that you see in all sorts of movies, and it sets the gold plate standard. These are the movies we grew up with. These are the movies we deserve, and the movies that never will have to be remade because you did it right the first time, and just good. A good, fun adventure. One of the best submarine movies probably ever made. One of the best movies ever made. And I suggest you go watch it. So if you like this, like, share, subscribe. I'm definitely going to start trying to do more movies like this. I watched Nicolas Cage Primal the other day. I was planning on doing a review of it. If you like others, my friends, go watch The Planet of the Nerds, Andy Signore, Lewis on Nerd Report, by the way. Lewis and I are doing like morning shows for him, 10 a.m., 1 p.m. for me during the week. I suggest you come along. Also, if you like this, watch my kind of rambling discussion of Utopia. So here I am. I've been talking for a few minutes now, and I hope you enjoyed this rambling spoiler talk on The Hunt for Red October, the new Halloween classic. Let me get the movie. Thanks for watching. Bye.